go ahead and tell us what you think you accomplished last night.
The president took his case directly to the American people, and that is new to many Americans. They are hearing the information for the first time from their commander-in-chief and the president. So far, in just the last week or so, the president has made his case directly in the Rose Garden, in the Situation Room, in the briefing room, now in the Oval Office, today up on Capitol Hill to the Senate. Yesterday, his vice president was there and his Homeland Security Secretary, certainly briefing members of Congress. And tomorrow he'll be at the border. So as president, he is the public face of his border security proposals. And let's make very clear, the centerpiece of this is the steel slat border wall. There's no question. But it also includes additional technologies and detection technologies and also personnel. This president has called for additional personnel at the border because we know the brave men and women there are overwhelmed with what has been a really different flow of illegal immigrants trying to come through the southern border. Traditionally, the last few years or so, it's basically been single males from Mexico. Now it's increasingly children, unaccompanied children, and families coming from the Northern Triangle countries. But this president showed heart and compassion. He detailed why he sees this as a humanitarian crisis. And I have to tell you, in a completely nonpartisan fashion with somebody whose heart beats and is a mother, the idea that you can say these crises are manufactured when we know the suffering and the pain that so many families have endured because their loved ones have died at the hands of illegal aliens who should not have been there. The president detailed some of those actual real-life accounts yesterday and said, what if it were your child, your husband, your wife, your loved one? And so for the Democrats to call this manufactured
Kelly,
when it's very real and raw is very, very unfortunate and insulting.
But the point of last night was to push the president's message forward and to lay it out very clearly for a much bigger audience.
Yes.
Does the president this morning feel like he accomplished that? Did he shift the debate here? Did did his message go further? Did he make any progress in this?
He does feel that way, and indeed, I agree, he did. And I know there will be some phony baloney polling question constructions, a business I was in for decades before I came here, to show that it didn't move the needle, America's against the wall, etc. So watch the way those polling questions are formed, and watch the way Democrats in the past have actually supported border security. In 2018, certainly in 2006. Look, if Schumer and Pelosi want to refer to this as all the Secure Fences Act of 2019, okay, I'm sure we can arrange that, because the only thing that's happened in the 13 years since they supported the 2006 Secure Fences Act is, number one, the situation at the border has become more dire, and number two, Donald Trump got elected, and as president, he's the one pushing for this. This should be a nonpartisan issue. I would note also, in what truly was a bit of an anemic and very partisan response from the two Democratic leaders last night, all the things that they did not and could not say. They could not tell you 0 people have been raped. They could not tell you 0 children have been smuggled and trafficked. They could not tell you that the drugs aren't pouring over the southern border, a 73% increase in fentanyl alone, according to DHS, the heroin that's killing 300 Americans a week. They could not tell you that unaccompanied children are pouring over, trying to come through the border in ways that we've never seen, and that's different. All the things that they didn't say, they could not tell you, because all of those things are true. That is a humanitarian crisis. My advice today, particularly in the Situation Room, where we'll be later, is why don't we start with just the drugs? Why don't we start with just the unaccompanied children? Why don't we focus on that aspect in sequence? If you focus just on the drugs, I would say to these Democrats, all of whom voted in favor of massive legislation just a few months ago that put on the table funding and recognition that the increase in drugs, particularly fentanyl, coming into our communities and killing Americans, tens of thousands of Americans a year, they already put their vote to that and the funding to that a few months ago. They've compelled our own U.S. Postal Service to be more rigorous in interdicting and stopping these poisonous drugs from coming into our country. So let's do it at the southern border. We've done it with our own Postal Service.
Let's get in with Tom Perez. He was here last hour. This is part of what he said in the case he's making about Democrats being willing to move on this. Watch.
Democrats have always believed in strong border security, but we want smart border security. You know, building a wall is not smart border security. Investing in combating violent extremism, we should be investing in the technologies necessary to combat bad guys.
To react to that, also the statement Tom Perez put out last night, he said the whole address is lies, finger pointing, fear-mongering. You mentioned manufactured crisis. He called it a manufactured excuse for shutting down the government. He says we're ready to pass legislation to fund common sense, effective border security. What's wrong with that?
He's all over the map like he usually is, and it's even tough to know who the leader of the Democratic Party truly is. Most people don't even say his name if you ask the question, but I think it's the 29-year-old socialist, the 72-year-old socialist. It's hard to know. But him aside, I heard a lot of give and an opening in that interview from him. Very different from very different from a PR partisan-generated press release from last night. I heard him say, we're ready to pass common sense reforms. So why don't we do all of the above? The president, in a letter from OMB, from his Office of Management Budget, to Chairman Richard Shelby just late last week, over the weekend actually, that included, if you look just at the back page of that included much of what the Democrats are asking for. They want more money for personnel. They want more money to meet the humanitarian needs, the detection and the technologies that we agree with. So if the sticking point is just the steel slat barriers, then number one, I would ask the Democrats respectfully, what then are you going to tear down the wall and the barriers that already exist? I dare you. And number two, what is your solution to impede and indeed deter people from literally coming this way, rather than have a barrier that you can't climb over, drive through, walk around, or crawl under? What is the solution? So I think your interview with him was very revealing. It sounded like he was a lot less like the partisan chair of the Democratic National Committee, a lot more somebody who wants to find a solution to this.
Kellyanne, why did
and I hope that same spirit exists when they come here at 3 o'clock today.
Why did the president decide not to declare a national emergency last night?
Well, the president has said all along he's looking at this. His legal counsel is examining the options. The president says he's on solid ground to actually be able to do it. I've seen Democrats on TV
he still considering
who grudgingly admit. He said that he's considering it. He's looking at it. But I also think that would take Congress off the hook yet again. Congress has failed to do its job over a series of years. Republicans and Democrats, frankly, in the leadership have failed to do their job over a series of years to get us the border security that we need. We have a security and humanitarian crisis at the southern border. Anybody who denies it should get off of their high horse, comfortable perches and go take a look. Look at the uncomfortable footage I've seen with these kids coming over here, and it's such a perilous journey for them. Mexico has offered asylum work visas, and they should stay in Mexico while their claims of credible fear are being processed by the U.S. It's the courts and it's the Congress.
Let me jump in. I got about a minute left. Quick lightning round, okay? Will there be cameras today for the meeting at 3 o'clock, yes or no?
In the Situation Room, normally not.
So
the White
it is
House
in the Situation
will take
Room.
That's the last I got.
Okay, all right. Another question. Rod Rosenstein is leaving the job. What's the White House reaction on that?
Well, I don't have confirmation on that, but I've seen it reported today. I think the typical tenure for a DAG, a Deputy Attorney General, is about 2 years. He's about to hit the 2-year mark.
Are you happy to see him go?
No, not necessarily. I can tell you that it makes sense if the reason that he is leaving is because a new Attorney General will be coming in and he'll have the ability to form his own team when he is confirmed. But I've been in meetings with the President and the Deputy Attorney General here at the White House, and the Deputy Attorney General, Rod Rosenstein, and the President have a good rapport. They have a good relationship. He's not being pushed out. Nobody's asking him to leave. If he leaves, it's on his own accord. And there are many things many things the Department of Justice does that have zero to do with the Mueller investigation. I think that the media, frankly, respectfully, should focus more on that, because under this president, the Department of Justice has done so much with respect to judges, drugs, gangs, so many different law enforcement backing the blue and feeling that they are more deeply
Kellyanne,
respected and better resourced.
Got it. We're out of time, but we thank you for yours.
Thank
Noon
you.
on the Hill with Republican leaders. 3 o'clock at the White House in the situation with Democratic leaders from Congress. Thank you, Kellyanne.
The president is on this. He's all in, and he's done it from the Rose Garden, the briefing room, the Oval Office, Capitol Hill, Situation Room, and tomorrow at the border.
Thank you.
Kellyanne, thank you.